Well, good afternoon, everyone, and happy Wednesday. It's digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Before the Four, the live stream where I talk about 48's top news stories and then some before the 4 o'clock newscast. I say it every day wherever you're watching Before the Four today, whether that's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream. As always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your Wednesday afternoon here. Now, you all know the drill. Let's check in with 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis to see what's in store weather-wise as we head into the latter half of the work week. Brad?
Well, the good news is your weekend looks pretty good. Temperatures back in the 70s. Unfortunately, it's been a windy day today. We've got that wind advisory, and we're going to see some thunderstorms as we head past 7 o'clock this evening. Some could be on the strong side. We just don't have a lot of instability, so therefore we're talking gusty winds around 40, maybe 45 miles per hour with those thunderstorms and some pea-size hail, maybe even dime size out there too. Here's a look at the shoals right now. All the spillways open after the recent rainfall. Hopefully things are getting better along Shoal Creek over there. Lots of problems there with floating docks and even the hot tub mystery out there. They finally got they found that out. Again, that's on a Facebook page there. I've been kind of following that. Here's our weather today. We are watching this storm system out to the west. Tornado watch is ahead of it in Illinois, Indiana. Looks like they've spread one down into Kentucky now. We're on the very southern part of this. There's snow wrapping around the storm in Wichita, back to Topeka and Omaha, Nebraska. Around here, a noticeable increase in clouds. And again, the showers and thunderstorms will start to pick up around 6, 7 o'clock through about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. I'll go hour by hour through that here in just a second. But again, 60 degrees at 1 a.m. That'll probably be the high for the day tomorrow. The temperatures will struggle as we get into the afternoon. 7 o'clock this evening, scattered showers, a few thunderstorms. They're going to intensify a bit between 8 and 9 o'clock, and the timing could vary a little bit on this, but I think we got it locked in pretty good. Here around 8:30, 9:30, we're looking at heavier thunderstorms in the Huntsville metro area down into Morgan County and on up to Pulaski in Tennessee. And the line quickly advancing to the east. Notice the drop in temperatures as the wind shifts to the northwest in the shoals, still southwest and northeast Alabama. But check out tomorrow. This is the first day of spring, and it is going to be dogwood winter the way it looks right now. Drizzle throughout the day, gusty west-northwest winds, and temperatures only in the 40s. We clear out as the sun sets, and then a freeze and a frost setting in for Friday morning. Looks like we'll be below freezing for about 4 hours.
Well, definitely did not want to hear that, but thank you, Brad. I'm ready for it to stay warm. I don't want to hear any more freezing, that is for sure. I don't know if any of you watching at home would like to see it become spring and stay spring. But now, in a bit of state news, Governor Kay Ivey has now signed Senate Bill 116 into law, which will effectively put a ban on Glock switches here in the state of Alabama. Now it will be a Class C felony and up to 10 years in prison if you're caught with these devices. Monet Stevens with WSFA spoke with lawmakers and law enforcement about this new statewide ban. Take a listen.
These devices, which turn regular handguns into fully automatic weapons, will now be illegal on the state level.
It can save lives. It can make our community safer.
Representative Philip Insler of Montgomery led the effort to pass a ban. This year, Senator Will Barfoot co-sponsored the legislation.
It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue, but a human issue, and that's ultimately why this passed.
Those caught with Glock switches now face up to 10 years in prison. The Alabama bill mirrors existing federal law, but state lawmakers say enacting a state ban will help law enforcement and prosecutors.
It was a federal law already. The only problem with that is getting the federal agents to enforce it. And now this is the same law, but it gives local authorities, police officers across the state, a chance to enforce that law.
Montgomery Police Chief Jim Grayboy says his officers have confiscated dozens of switches under federal law, but a state law means they can start the legal process faster.
When you charge somebody locally, the process is that much quicker that we can actually react to it and put somebody in jail quickly. And we don't have to necessarily call out a federal service to help us charge the person.
While the bill cannot return the lives lost to the devices, lawmakers say they're confident it will save lives and reduce violence in the future.
It will save lives, and they just got to enforce it.
Well, now yesterday we learned more details on a Huntsville murder last month. Officials say 21-year-old Xavier Cole admitted to killing his grandparents, telling his grandmother that he loved her as he stabbed her. 48's Faith Delp spoke with prosecutor Tim Gann, who says all the evidence given, this case looks to be an absolute tragedy. Take a listen.
Huntsville police investigators interviewed Xavier Cole after the murders of his grandparents Kenneth and Antoinette Skaggs. One of the investigators testified today in court, saying when they interviewed Cole, he didn't say he remembered much from that night, but he did remember telling his grandma he loved her as he stabbed her. He also remembers his grandma saying she loved him back. This is 21-year-old Xavier Cole walking out of his preliminary hearing today. During that hearing, an investigator testified that Cole told them he remembered what his grandma last said to him and he remembers killing his grandpa. Otherwise, Cole told the investigators he blacked out and doesn't remember anything else. Investigators say Cole lived with the Skaggs in an apartment on Carriage Court. They found a 4-inch fixed blade knife covered in blood in the apartment. The investigator who testified said Cole tried to turn himself in after the killings and carried another suspected murder weapon, a sword, about 3 miles down the road to HPD's South Precinct. Prosecutor Tim Gann says the facts of this case are horrible.
This case is, it's serious. The facts are horrible. And so we're looking at it day to day, just evaluating, and we'll see what the evidence says once we get it all in. But right now, it looks like a tragedy.
The investigator also testified that Cole is uncertain if the Skaggs were his biological grandparents. He just knows that he has lived with them most of his life. The judge decided there was probable cause and bound Cole's case to grand jury. Reporting in Huntsville, Faith Delp 48 News, on your side.
Now moving out to Owens Crossroads, where at last night's city council meeting, city leaders pushed off a decision regarding Pathway, the troubled girls facility that has stirred up some controversy in the past year. 48's Nick Ballinger attended last night's meeting and has details.
A standing room only crowd could only listen as the Owens Crossroads City Council kicked the can down the road on a decision surrounding the future of Pathway. But not before they heard from Nathan Nicholson, who lives down the street from the youth housing facility plagued with problems.
Sometimes there's things that just does not work. The teen detention industry in Owens Crossroads has not worked.
The facility used for the treatment of troubled teens has a history. 30 police calls in 5 months, 3 teen girls escaped in January, and a list of former employees who say the environment inside is subpar. Nicholson, a retired Huntsville police officer, has lived near Pathway since its opening. Ever since a riot broke out in the facility in September, Nicholson has pushed for it to close. Just 2 weeks ago, he was there when Pathway's attorney pleaded with the city council to keep it open. The attorney told council members Pathway would install a $50,000 fence around the property and even reimburse the police department for the frequency of phone calls.
You may want to get an attorney general's opinion as a city before you start accepting private donations to fund police calls. There's probably another name for that.
You call it what you want, it's bribery.
Miranda Steele also lives just down the road from the facility and says Pathway has had a chance to make changes already.
I don't like my dogs waking up in the middle of the night because I had the police force out in my backyard searching for children that are missing.
Advocates for the teen girls inside say closing Pathway for good would be devastating for a group already struggling in life.
If you don't have them in this facility closes and they have to go to another facility.
And following up on the 9 men who are arrested in a Limestone County human trafficking sting earlier this week, yesterday those 9 men had Anaya's law hearings. 48's Callie Neese with an update.
The first suspect up today was Kevin Brooks. Yesterday we reported that he was already a sex offender in Madison County, but today we are learning new information about his latest arrest. Brooks was one of the men investigators say contacted a decoy online in this human trafficking sting. A Limestone County Sheriff's Office investigator says when they searched Brooks' car, they found $1,300 in counterfeit cash, condoms, and sex toys. The judge has not yet determined if he will receive bond.
Brooks was among the men investigators say contacted the decoys online who pretended to be 15 years old. Earlier today, I spoke with Erica Hochberger from the National Children's Advocacy Center. She told me predators can be found all over the internet, from video games to social media sites.
So in 2023, they had 32 million images and videos reported online to the cyber tip line at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
One of the others in court today was Donald Delvaney, who was a Russellville firefighter. The mayor of Russellville says that he was fired by city council just days after his arrest. Hochberger says the majority of the time children end up in these situations, it's by someone the child knows or trusts.
Overwhelming majority is still that it's somebody that you know and trust. And you are starting to see more of the financially based crimes and more of the peer-to-peer. And even that comes down to, dating violence and interpersonal violence and bullying, things like that.
2 of the 9 men's hearings have been continued till Friday at 2. For the other 7, their bonds have not been decided on yet. Reporting in Athens, Cali News 48 News on your side.
In Tuscumbia on Saturday, we learned about a warehouse explosion on Gann Boulevard. Neighbors and businesses say they are still cleaning up all the debris. 48's Aria Pons gives us a look.
You can see the immense damage that this warehouse behind me sustained after a fire broke out on Saturday. The owners of the building say they lost everything in the fire, and they normally sell items to convenience stores around the area. And due to what else was located inside, most of the businesses and residents are also cleaning up from that fire.
And so I'm waking up and I hear boom, boom, boom.
It just kept on going off. It was shaking stuff off her walls.
Tiana Roberts and Katie McCandless were both in a neighborhood at the end of Gann Boulevard when a fire started in the warehouse close by early on Saturday. McCandless says she was in the wrong place at the wrong time when a piece of debris flew through her back car windshield.
Everybody finally just trickled out. I mean, it was a community thing of, do we need to band together? What the heck is going on?
Tuscumbia Fire Chief J.T. Fox says the investigation into how the fire started is still ongoing and that it'll take a while. He says due to the severity of the fire and its effects, Fox turned the investigation over to the state fire marshal.
I responded from my residence in town, and it sounded like World War III, and I lived approximately 2 miles from this incident.
Fox says from the time they received the call of the fire to the time the devices and cans stopped exploding after an hour, there are around 100 small explosions that went off.
Everybody thought it was fireworks, but it was those canisters exploding and shooting into the air, and that's what was falling on people's cars, apartments.
Chief Fox says in his nearly 20 years as a firefighter, he's never seen anything like this. Reporting in Tuscumbia, Aria Pons, 48 on your side.
And it certainly looked a lot like fireworks. If you haven't seen the video yet, you can find it on our Instagram account. We posted a reel on it on Saturday. But now, coming up after the break, a French politician wanting the Statue of Liberty back. We'll talk about that, speaking with a yarn business in Chattanooga struggling to stay afloat with the ongoing tariffs we're seeing on imports, and another great story on how a suspect's pet became a key detail leading to his arrest. It's all ahead. I'll see you all in 1 minute. Well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. I don't know about you, but those 60 seconds went by so slow, it felt like a minute each second. I was ready to get back here on the Before the Four stream and talk to you fine people watching at home. But now, in a bit of national news, a French politician is making headlines, suggesting the United States return the Statue of Liberty, saying we are no longer worthy of the gift from the French. Ida Siegel sorts through the facts and has reaction.
She's a symbol of American values and perhaps the best gift the U.S. has ever received. But this weekend, a French politician suggested America is no longer living up to the ideals the Statue of Liberty represents.
Nous allons dire aux Américains deux choses. D'abord, rendez-nous la statue de la liberté.
Raphael Glucksmann spoke before members of his left-leaning party in France this weekend and said the U.S. should give Lady Liberty back, referring to policies enacted under the Trump administration. He continued, "We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise her." Folks boarding the Staten Island ferry tonight in the shadow of the iconic statue had mixed views.
We don't no longer represent what that gift meant. So, in a way, yeah, we probably should give it back.
It was a gift. Who rescued France in World War II with D-Day? We did.
It should be noted that France has no official right to Lady Liberty. It is the official property of the U.S. government, and the French President Emmanuel Macron does not agree with the left-leaning politician who is making this request. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had this to say in response.
My advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful.
The statue is clearly staying put, and all the people we spoke with want it to stay that way, whether they agree with the current administration's interpretation of American values or not. Do you think we still live up to the ideals of the Statue of Liberty?
We do. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know much about France or anything like that, but I went to France, I could probably find something wrong with their country.
This is a great country. It always is. But right now, I think we're doing some things that maybe I don't agree with. I can understand why people might be upset.
Well, now staying in national news, many businesses are pushing forward despite the higher costs from the 25% tariffs on Chinese, Canadian, and Mexican imports. Cornelia Nicholson spoke with the owner of Chattanooga Yarn Company about how tariffs are impacting their store and the crafting world.
For artisans and craft businesses like Chattanooga Yarn Co., many of them rely on unique materials, fabrics, and tools sourced from around the world, which means an increase in costs could unravel some businesses.
If I get hit with those tariffs mid-year, it's going to be an absolute killer on the business.
Dana Chadwell has owned Chattanooga Yarn Co. for 3 years, an artisan's dream store nestled in a corner of the Northgate Mall.
In 2022, I decided to open a yarn store because Chattanooga didn't have one and there was definitely a need.
Chadwell says she's enjoyed owning a craft store, but with tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, she's about to hit a stitch in her business. The fibers that make up all the yarns in her store are sourced internationally.
So your finest quality merino wools are going to come from Australia and New Zealand for the most part. Silks are going to come from China and India. Cashmere only comes from China. Yarns like cotton are going to come from Turkey. They're going to come from India. They're going to come from Greece.
Chadwell says America's fiber industry is mostly industrial and garment focused, not high quality hand knitting yarns, which means she has no choice but to outsource.
If we're looking at a 10 to 25% tariff on any of my products, that cost is going to get passed along to me by distributors, and I'm going to have to pass it along to my customers. There's no way I can eat a 25% cost increase.
In an effort to get ahead of the tariffs, Chadwell started stockpiling.
But what that does is it takes my buying away from some of the other products. And right now it feels like whack-a-mole. You know, today we have a 25% tariff. Tomorrow we have an 8% tariff. The next day we have no tariff. Tariffs on hold. Tariffs happening tomorrow. And the problem is the uncertainty of it makes it really hard to do the essential functions of business.
Chadwell says not being able to plan ahead is going to hurt many local businesses, but she plans to continue fostering a place to bring people together and give them an outlet during a time of uncertainty.
What I'm hopeful for is that my customers, because we have such a strong community, because we have so many community events, because we're so inclusive, so welcoming, that my customers will continue to support me as best they can, no matter what the economy does.
Well, last week, I got the chance to chat it up with Huntsville police officer Bruce Jansen for 48 Now. I had such a great time speaking with Officer Jansen on a bunch of different topics. Yesterday, I played you all a soundbite of him rescuing a baby deer on Montesano Mountain. Today, however, take a listen to how one key detail ultimately led to the arrest of a suspect here in Huntsville.
Had a gentleman, he was a sex offender, and we were looking for him. I think we were looking for him for a while, and one of my officers came to me in my office and said, "Hey, I think I know this guy. I've seen him at the park. He's got a bearded dragon." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" and the officer was like, "Yeah, he's got a bearded dragon. In fact, you know, I'm pretty sure I've seen him at the park with it." And I'm like, "Okay." Well, because I hadn't run him yet, and so I sent it to y'all. And again, being new at Crime Stoppers, I'm like, I don't know what they can and can't say, but I'm going to throw it in there. And if they can, that's great. And if not, okay. And I put in there, hey, has been seen at local parks with his bearded dragon. And I think Gina was doing it that week, and Gina was like, hey, he's known to be around the parks with his bearded dragon. And that made the difference in catching this guy.
Yes.
And it was, I started getting tips off of, hey, there's a guy with the bearded dragon. We know the guy with the bearded dragon. They didn't know his name. I even took pictures, and they were like, I might know that guy. But as soon as I said, hey, this is the guy with the bearded dragon, they knew exactly who he was. And they, and so we started working to try to get him into custody.
Right. It's a dead giveaway, the bearded dragon there.
Right. So I'm at my office one day, and all of a sudden my radio starts talking, and they call for me, and I'm like, who is calling for me? So I grab my radio, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And but in police 10 codes, and so
right.
So anyway, I get on the radio, and they're like, hey, this guy's supposed to be over here at one of our soup kitchens. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, that's just not even half a mile from here. It's from your station, you could throw a rock and hit it. And so I'm like, I'm on my way. So I get in my car, I come over, and I'm asking a couple of people, hey, have y'all seen this guy? And they're like, yeah, he went to the bus station. So I send somebody down Church Street to the bus station. I had come past the one on University and hadn't seen him. Mm-hmm. So I came out past the station here, and there's one bus station just right over here on Oakwood. And I pull up, and plain as day, he's sitting right there. And I'm just like, I'm smiling. I get out, and I go, hey, what's your name? And he's like, and I said, don't lie, tell me your name, because I already know who you are. Mm-hmm. And got him in custody, asked him, hey man, where's your bearded dragon? And he had a friend watching after his bearded dragon, so his bearded dragon was okay, but it wasn't with him when he got arrested, but got him successfully into custody, and it was, again, by the help of a tipster who I don't remember, both stories, both tipsters got paid,
Yep, every detail counts. Extremely interesting story there from Officer Jansen. If you haven't watched that full 48 Now interview, you can find that on our website. Just go to WAFF.com. You'll go to digital shows and then 48 Now, and you can watch that full 45-minute interview with Officer Jansen for more stories just like that. But I don't know if we have time for the good side today, but let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. A preliminary hearing being held today for the suspect in the Harvest Circle K shooting. 48's Callie Neese will have more on that coming up. the trial for a woman charged with manslaughter after a baby's death at Tiny Tigers Daycare in the Shoals. 48's Aria Pons with more on that coming up, and the latest on the Fort Payne development we're seeing. 48 Savannah Sapp will have all those details, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. And let's head into Facebook fun. Why don't we? That is right, our 48 Facebook question of the day. What's your favorite U.S. landmark? And I have an answer, but I know that somebody watching or someone who commented on today's 48 Facebook question has the same answer that I have. And what I want to know is what you all have to say. I am ready to shout out my answer. And it is, of course, this one right here. Lynn Harris, the Statue of Liberty, 100% is my favorite U.S. landmark until they take it back. That is 100% right. They can't take it back. No way. Lynn, thank you so much for commenting. Greatly appreciated. Always makes my day seeing y'all's comments for Facebook fun, without a doubt. But Jamie said Wrigley Field is her favorite U.S. landmark. That is a great one. I had the pleasure of getting to go up to Chicago about a year ago, and I got to see Wrigley Field. Didn't get to go for a Cubs game. It wasn't the Cubs season, but would love to make my way up there for a Cubs game. But it was cool. It was around the holidays. They had a Kindle market at Wrigley Field. Got to go on the field. It was so much fun. But Jamie, awesome comment there. Love those old ballparks. Definitely Fenway Park, Wrigley Field. They're all super cool. But Jamie, thank you so much. And then David said Talladega Super Speedway is his favorite U.S. landmark. And it's hard to argue with that. I mean, that's your opinion without a doubt, but I think that is a really cool one. I would like to make my way to Talladega this April and see the race, but awesome comment there, David, and everyone who commented today on Before the Four or on the Facebook question of the day. Thank you so much for commenting. Well, that is just about it for today's Before the Four, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great night.